How did you guys think about starting this business, and especially sisters working together?
Just recognizing how much of beauty and makeup and skincare brands are primarily run by male pockets. So much of the target audience is female. So very consumer mindset is what we came with. Pure agitation of how, you need to have light underarms. You're a female body but a man's brain. I think I have the audacity of an average man.
Oh my God, there are things like vaginal brightening creams.
So I've never really understood the power dynamics of gender. I think a lot of people who have sisters will understand. It's just having this really safe space. Like I can repeat my darkest thought in front of her and there's no judgment. And she just gets you. There's a whole gamut in this industry that's been quite challenging for us. Someone can just buy a sunscreen off the rack and replicate it.
Which products to pick?
There's no product that can change your skin in less than 6 to 8 weeks. So a lot of dupe culture is so big in India right now. I'd say close to 98% of makeup products in India are made by one manufacturer.
Embracing chemicals is a new thing. Everybody's talking about tretinoin.
You have to identify one, maximum 2 problems you're trying to deal with in your skin. All the people I've dated, nobody I would have swiped right on an app.
Really? When they'll have more money and more decision-making power in the world.
No, I agree. I think money does buy you freedom.
Hi everyone, it's a hot day in Delhi and you're listening to Girls Who Get It. I am Saumya and I talk to your favorite girls living their best lives. I have a wonderful founder joining me today. She's unabashed, she's badass, and she's Divya from Friday Feeling. But I also feel that we were slightly ignored in terms of the kind of visibility we got. I feel like now the world is more intersectional. How people from India, how Diljit Dosanjh walked the Cannes carpet and he looked so lovely.
I think that's the thing. I'm fairly a cynical person, some would say, but I believe they're only doing it because it makes economic sense. Nobody's doing it because they want to see diversity or inclusion.
True. Diljit Dosanjh walked the Met Gala, not the Cannes carpet. I'm so sorry. I'm factually wrong.
Maybe it just manifested next year.
Yeah, maybe if that happens.
That's too small a carpet for him now.
But I think he's the real goat. How was it growing up in Ludhiana?
Good man, Diljit's from Ludhiana. So we have a lot of cool people growing up. But it was really good. But it's only once I left did I realize how much of a bubble I grew up in. I feel firstly, when you're in school, your parents are protecting you. You're already in a bubble. You don't see the reality of the place you're growing up. It's like a child's version of it, right? On top of that, I feel Ludhiana was a bubble, very culturally a bubble, socioeconomically felt like a bubble when I look back, because it's only when I went to college was the first time that another Indian student in college asked me what my surname meant or what my caste was. I'd never heard the word caste spoken growing up.
Really?
Never been asked. I didn't understand how you can tell someone's caste by their surname. It was a foreign concept. So in that ways, it was a bubble because I had friends from all different religions, perhaps. It wasn't even a topic that got brought up. Nobody even asked what your religion was. Like, Gurdwaras was a part of life, not because it was religious, because it was cultural. Like Punjabis growing up, you go to langar. That was it. And perhaps maybe because I didn't grow up with too much of a religious instruction at home. Never truly understood. Like we did study religions, but from a historical standpoint. So my dadi read a lot of different religious books and she would read them to us to bed. So it was almost like a fairy tale rather than, this is a religion. So learning about all these different religions and perhaps, I don't know, now when I think from a bigger picture perspective, Punjab has that, where a lot of the culture is very open-hearted. It's about celebrating diversity rather than trying to distinguish how we are. We've gone through hard times. Multiple generations have seen trauma of what division does to a community. And I think we've grown up hearing the caution tales of what that looks like, because obviously being a border state, we went through partition during our grandparents' generation. Our parents' generation saw the whole terrorism era. And I think that's why it feels fairly safe in some ways. Like you can just be yourself and they celebrate difference. So not just from an overall religious, geopolitical standpoint, even at an individual level, I think there's a lot of celebration of just being yourself and owning it and just being loud and proud.
How's it like to be a girl growing up in Punjab?
Again, interesting, because when I look back, there's obviously elements to how amazing it was. And I have to put the lens of the kind of family I grew up in, because that is what kind of shaped me. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a family where my grandfather was a farmer, but had a stay-at-home dad. My grandmother went to work. So I grew up seeing that. My grandmother would hardly ever enter the kitchen. The men cook in my family and always have. So it's just, I think it's also growing up, seeing those examples, not just at your parents' level, seeing it at your grandparents' level, right? And then see it trickle down. Like I've only, family perspective, I've only grown up around feminist men and women. So I've never really understood the power dynamics of gender. I didn't. It's only when, I became an individual, you deal with men beyond your family. You have male friends who think a certain way. You're dating. That's when you start to understand how important this weight of how women grow up and how men are brought up really changes how we look at the world. So I never had that lens growing up. I was never given it from my parents or from my family. Obviously, you do absorb it. You watch movies, you're watching cartoons, you live in a bigger picture world. But I think just having that confidence and comfort level at home was so strong, feeling so secure at home, where I was able to have radical self-love without even realizing what I was doing.
I wish more girls can have a childhood like that. It would be so lovely. And it's so endearing to hear you say that.
Exactly. I still remember I was a little kid and I have this nose, which is my great-grandmother's nose, and I'm really proud of it. And some girl, I was like 7 or 8, some girl called me a witch for it. It didn't affect me at all, just because, again, the concept of being so proud of where you come from, who you are, and what this means beyond just looks. I grew up hearing stories about her and how she was the strong person who would stand her ground, who never let anyone tell her what to do. So there was pride attached to it beyond just what the physical look of my nose was.
But was this an instant reaction, or did you eventually come to terms with it?
It's interesting. I think, obviously, we all grow up differently. Maybe if you ask my brother or my sister, they might have a different view on it. But at least in my bubble of my growing up, my mom is a staunch supporter of us. She's that mom who, there's these memes going around where they're like, when your mom tells you if you don't get hired, oh, there's something wrong with them. So she was always such a strong believer and like almost like a fighter for me from the get-go. My dad has always taught us to stand your ground. If you believe in something, fight for it. So just growing up in that environment, I never had room for doubt.
That's very interesting. I have 6 fingers in my right hand. And I remember crying. I was in pre-nursery or something, and my mom tells me this story again and again. She tells me I came back crying because some kids are kids.
Yeah,
say mean
kids
things
can be
to
mean.
you. Yeah, extremely mean things to you. That person said you look like an alien. Then I came back home and my mom's like, no, I think you're incredibly gifted. Only God gives something extra to the children he loves. She loves. Let's just correct that. And I was like, okay. And I always kept that close to me. And then eventually, then you see, okay, Hrithik Roshan has 6 thumbs. And then that gets normalized. But obviously for me also, it was a journey. And in general, how with that, I also felt that self-image is such a thing. And it's a progress, right? Like, there's so many wonderful, beautiful women around me. I feel that while they are sort of doing their own thing or, working their own jobs or wherever they are, they wouldn't give themselves enough credit or would feel insecure about something which is so... I don't think we'd even notice that to be there, right? But for you, how was it? Like, how do you how have you ever dealt with self-doubt in a certain way, or has it never been there?
I think I need to recognize the privilege I grew up with. Obviously, having a family that gave me all that safe space and made me feel loved at all times. So I never doubted it. But also so different growing up nowadays with social media. Like, I feel I can't imagine being a teenager, having Instagram and not having body issues or some form of self-image issues, right? So there's definitely recognition of that. But for me, honestly, a lot of my female friends, if you ask them, they'll tell you, like, they say, you're a female body, but a man's brain. I think I have the audacity of an average man. That's pretty much it. I've never had doubt. I worked in environments where there were more men, or maybe people wanted me to question how I would be able to do a job as good as a man. And I've always fought with, the thing is, what helps is I don't let emotion come out. So when I convey how important or amazing I am at something I do, I've tended to use data to back it up. And there's still sexist people. I've dealt with sexism too. But for instance, at work, one of my jobs, like, we had a female head of the team. And we're all out in the evening having team drinks. And this woman very casually drops a bomb. She says, "Oh, I don't like having women on my team because they're always making the excuse of having period cramps and don't show up to work." Everyone laughed. I was the only one who didn't laugh. I got up, left the table. But it's just, you do have those experiences, but somehow, I don't know, I wish I could, like, wrap this formula up and give it to all my female friends or all the women I know. It's just, it doesn't go in. Just doesn't rub me off the wrong way. It's just, it gives me more energy to want to fight things like that. So I think maybe it's just finding a way to focus on being able to change things, and rather than internalizing it and saying, oh, maybe she meant it was me, or maybe I need to do something. Maybe if I did it this way, it would be better. It's being able to balance, obviously, self-growth. We all can do better. That's just growing up in general, and we all make mistakes. But it's also balancing the fact that the system needs to change. Sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's the system.
And I think kudos to your parents who never let this, because I think a lot of this becomes a part of conditioning. For me,
exactly.
How I grew up in a very regressive household, and I was subjected to a lot of self-doubt, or, you're not doing sit this way, stand this way, do this, do that. And I never seemed to make anybody happy. And what that did to me, I feel like even until now, I just struggle with it, because there's so much anxiety and you're fighting it. And that just becomes like a constant thing, right? Like, so I feel a lot of your childhood that you've lived is what you take in your life, and you live your life with it. So I think
it takes forever to heal through, like, a childhood that makes you doubt things in a certain way. You see it, like, I'm growing up, like, you see different friends or family members who've had a different childhood. Even being a close family member, sometimes you can have a very different childhood growing up, and you see the consequences of it. So I'm very lucky. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that it's all thanks to the kind of environment I grew up in that I am who I am. Because happiness was never conditional. The question was never asked. The only question my parents ever asked us growing up, and still do, is like, are you happy? So it was never, oh, what you didn't make us happy. So I think it's just having the maturity, which, again, I don't even judge a lot of parents, because sometimes they're doing the best they can. When you grow up, you realize parents are humans too, right? You can't expect them to be perfect. That generation especially maybe didn't have access to therapy, didn't have access to all these conversations that we do.
Correct.
So that's why I feel onus is on our generation to kind of not repeat those patterns and do a better job now.
And it takes a lot of strength to do that. And if anybody is doing that right now, I feel that it's going to heal another generation. So, and it takes a lot of effort.
It does.
How was it growing up with a brother and sister?
Oh, very cool. So I'm in the middle. I have an older sister. which is, I think, the best kind of sibling to have. If you're going to have only one sibling, have an older sister, if you're lucky enough to, and a younger brother. So I have very different dynamics with each of them. I grew up quite a tomboy. So for me, the most exciting part about having a brother was like, oh my God, I'm going to have someone to rough around. And I did rough him around a lot because we have quite an age gap. I'm 6 years older than him. So with my sister, it's just, I think a lot of people who have sisters will understand. It's just having this really safe space. Like I can repeat my darkest thought in front of her and there's no judgment and she just gets you. You might fight all the time, especially if you decide to work with them. It gets harder. That's another dynamic. But just knowing that whatever the fight is, we can say the meanest things to each other sometimes in the midst of it. But just that safety you feel having a sister is just different. I think only if you have one do you truly understand what that means.
And Kavya and you look so similar. We were just having this conversation right before we were recording that. And we were discussing how both of you looks extremely similar. I think it's the similar case to my siblings as well. But I feel with both of you, there's total resemblance. I think you could be complete twins, identical twins.
Yeah, I know that's what people tell us. And obviously, again, if you have a sister, it gives you the cringe for a second and you're like, oh, maybe it's not that bad a thing to say. I'll take it as a compliment. But instantly you're just like, I don't want to look like her.
Yeah. I want to be my own person. I think it's also the middle child thing, right?
That's true. You like always have this need to stand out and be different in some ways. I used to think it's just me, but I think it's a fairly stereotypical middle kid thing. With my brother, it was always competitive after a certain age because he's really into sports. He's played pretty much every sport you can think of. And any sport he's ever played, he's gone to at least state level. So he was really good. And I get very competitive. So imagine competing with your brother who's 6 years younger than you. So a lot of times, like for instance, table tennis got banned in our house because we got very competitive and started fighting. So I think I kind of have almost like an older brother kind of equation with my younger brother. That's what he likes to say always. He's like, you never made me miss having an older brother. But extremely competitive. A bit protective because obviously he's my younger brother. But I think as we've grown up, he's become slightly more mature than I am in a lot of ways. The dynamic has shifted where it feels like he's the older sibling and I'm the younger one.
Yeah, it happens after a certain point in time. And I think that's the progression of life eventually, right? So with me and my siblings also sometimes how you'd be sitting with a problem and then suddenly they're going to walk up to you and you discuss it with them and they're going to give you the smartest advice and you're like, okay, when did this happen? When did you grow up? And I think it's also so wonderful.
Yeah.
I think Kavya might feel the same thing about you as well.
I bet, obviously. She's like a very protective older sister and she's always looking out for both of us. She goes out of her way to like make life easier in whichever way possible she can. So I recognize that now.
I really relate with her. Next podcast is going to be with her.
Yeah, I think so.
How did you guys think about starting this business? And especially sisters working together. Me and my sister, we can't be in the same room for more than 15 minutes if we are too opinionated about something. How do you guys do it?
I think I always knew I wanted to do something of my own. And then just recognizing the fact that she's this creative, empathetic person who sees things in a very creative way. Whereas I am more analytical bent of mind. I need my data. I feel more confident. I still remember in art class when our teacher asked us to make freehand circles and I wanted to use a compass to do it because if it's not going to be perfect, I can't draw it. So just knowing that we have these complementary skill sets and abilities and the fact that I know my sister's always going to be honest with me I want someone to challenge me. I don't want someone to just go along just because this is a cool sounding idea. So that, and then the idea came because very purely, I went into a deep search one day. And firstly, recognizing that we're sitting in India, a country that gets so much sun all year round, has no single sunscreen brand or sun care brand. At that point, there were no brands making Indian sunscreens.
This was
when we
which year?
2020 is when we started the idea. We started thinking about it. It took us about 2.5 years to develop the formula. And the idea was obviously not having a sun care brand, but also just female angst, I call it. Just recognizing how much of beauty and makeup and skincare brands are primarily run by male pockets, or the money's going to male pockets, even though so much of the target audience is female. And just being pissed at how we were being marketed to as consumers in the industry. So very consumer mindset is what we came with. It was pure agitation of how, oh, you need to have light underarms. Just the way you're spoken to, and recognizing there's so many teenage girls who don't have the self-belief or the self-confidence built yet, or the tools to cope with the kind of marketing they're consuming. I think a lot of it was just driven by that. You talk about actress, a lot of celebrity brands that we see, even India, the celebrity beauty brands are all run by men. Like the women are the face. They probably get some money. If you're a celebrity, you probably get a bigger chunk of the money. But a lot of it is still run by a man in the backdrop and needs to
Anything
change.
that talks about lightening, whitening, and brightening, it snaps something in me, and it also makes me very angry, because how can you expect women to be perfect? Or oh my God, there are things like vaginal brightening creams, and they are marketed to you, and everything is okay, and it's so toxic as an entire culture. And I think it's such a part of consumerism, because I feel that the more beautiful that you're looking, or whatever certain way that you have to be marketed to the entire masses, and if they pick on it, is how they buy more products, and that becomes an entire cycle. But it's so angry, because it's just reinstating the patriarchy that's just
Exactly.
there.
And you
right?
can't remove the cultural context from it. We were colonized people. The way we talk to ourselves needs to change now. It's been so many years. The world has moved on from so much, and we still haven't been able to move on from the fact that we still want a fair female. The onus is usually on women to carry more of the weight of how beauty standards are in the world, with dark hair, long hair, straight hair, shiny hair. Like there's so much that people expect. Even now, like for instance, my sister has curly hair. She always grew up with so much baggage of that. I think that's what I said. Like I grew up with so much privilege. Just because I had a strong self-image doesn't mean someone else growing up in the exact same environment didn't face a different sort of challenge in our society. True. And even now we see curly hair normalized a bit more, but it's still this very tight definition of what a healthy curly hair
just wearing
look
a hair
is.
True, and just wearing a hair in the most natural texture that there is, right? Even with us, I know my classmates. I grew up in an all-girls school. I know my classmates who've literally used an iron to straighten their hair, and because their parents didn't buy them a straightening iron or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's stemming from somewhere, right? Like if young girls are feeling this, that they need to straighten their hair consistently over a period of time, that's just bad. Plus, I feel hair texture, another thing is skin color. Indian skin is so variedly colored, right? Like I'll have darkness on the top of my forehead or somewhere else. And so no amount of a foreign made product would, especially like a concealer, would suit me in terms of undertones, etc. And only now the world has started recognizing that. So when I started experimenting with makeup and I bought my first concealer, I wouldn't name the brand. I just felt like, oh my God, I look so bad with makeup. I look so ashy, and it's
not realizing that it's not you, it's the product you're using.
And the color wasn't light. It was just that the concealer was making me look gashy. So then I was like, okay, now I need to maybe experiment more. Then there's a Forest Essential concealer that I discovered, and then I started using and that it's perfect for my skin. And I was like, okay, this is what I needed all this while. And why was I not understanding?
There's also a lack of responsibility from a brand perspective. I feel like, for instance, our brand, we decided to make a hyperpigmentation serum. And to me, that required a lot of understanding the cultural nuances of what we call pigmentation. We spent about 2 years developing this product, and all through these 2 years, I was researching and writing a book about hyperpigmentation because I wanted to fully understand the cultural connotations of, if I'm going to call something hyperpigmentation in my marketing, it cannot come across as so many things that we call pigmentation that are just skin color.
True.
It was really important to study how the history of colorism and just making people feel bad about the color they're born, which is so pretty. I feel some of Indian skin tones are the prettiest skin colors I've seen. The way they glow when they get a bit tan or sun on them. Like, I burn when I'm in the sun, and I'm super jealous of anyone who can tan beautifully. So I think just being able to understand, just because I didn't face a certain challenge doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So when I did that research, understanding how so much of, we talk crude, fair and lovely era, but then there's so many other brands and products that might have a very simple hyperpigmentation serum that has no cultural connotations or like colorism connotations, but the way they market, the way they talk about the product, the way the before and afters are shown is what kind of leads into this whole idea of making someone feel bad about the color of the skin. And I think you have to be very careful. You need to do the background research. You can be someone who's maybe never faced a challenge about curly hair or like a certain being made to feel bad about your skin color. But that doesn't mean you don't live in a country where most people go through those challenges.
How has that formulation evolved for you as that Friday feeling as a brand in the products that you've made?
I think, at least for sunscreen, obviously white cast is a big thing, and a lot of Indian skin tones, face challenges about that. But it's not that hard to do anymore with the new chemical filters that we have for UV filters. You don't need to use a mineral sunscreen because chemical filters are safe enough. It's more challenging when you're developing a mineral sunscreen. But I think just developing a sunscreen is extremely hard. We only realized it when we were doing it. Especially because we live in an India which can be extremely dry, extremely humid, extremely hot, and extremely cold.
True.
We wanted to make a sunscreen that goes with all of these restrictions. So a lot of the gel-like sunscreen textures you see online, a lot of brands in India are making them too, they don't work for India because they're very heavily dependent on silicones to make them gel-like. And a lot of silicones, depending on how you formulate them, can feel extremely heavy on your skin. And especially in a humid climate or a hot climate, it gets very uncomfortable. The feeling on your skin, you constantly feel it all day long. So even though perceptively or marketing-wise, it looks lighter, right? When you think gel, you think lighter. It's going to be better for summer. It's going to be better for oily skin. It ends up being the exact opposite. So for us, it was because both of our sunscreens are water and sweat resistant, which was very important to me because when you make a sunscreen that you're making for instance, one of our sunscreens was developed keeping in mind our brother who's an athlete and who's sweating and is outdoors all day. The idea was to make it sweat resistant so he can get protection even when he's playing or being outdoors. The other one was thought out, like the idea came about more as having almost like a Charlotte Tilbury inspired makeup base, which you can wear as is or use it as a primer for your makeup. And when you're making primers for makeups, it's very important they're water resistant. Otherwise, they break down when you put makeup on top of it.
True.
So there were multiple reasons to want to make this. But the biggest challenge was to make something water and sweat resistant without leaving any feel. So I have this thing about sensations and feelings. Like I'm that person who's constantly washing their hands when they're cooking something or doing makeup. Every step I have to wash my hands. I can't have any sensation on my fingers. So I think I'm quite crazy about how something feels on your face as well. I don't like any feeling. So if a product's going to leave any sort of feeling after I'm done applying it, it's just not for me. So I think just chasing all these different needs and wants was pretty much the driver for our first 2 products. And then for this serum that we developed, the inspiration was my mum, who faced a lot of melasma after she had my brother. And it's a fairly common thing that women face post-pregnancy that a lot of us don't talk about. And also post-acne sort of pigmentation that you tend to get. The idea was to make something that's sensitive skin safe, because I have a very sensitive skin. And a lot of aggressive pigmentation-focused serums can be quite damaging to your microbiome and just your skin in general. And then your skin is dry, then you're fixing that first, then you have to go back to the active, then you go back to fixing your skin again, which is like a whole cycle I think a lot of us went through, especially during COVID when we were using every sort of skincare routine.
Correct.
So the idea was to, again, it feels like water. If you try it, I'll, make sure to send you some. It's the texture exactly water. And that's, again, like those are the things that take time. Those are the things that take effort and money and investment upfront. And that's what a lot of, I think it's taken us a long time. We're still struggling. We're getting this message out to people and people recognizing this. But a lot of times, like, people will text us, be like, why should I pay this much for your sunscreen when this brand is selling it for this and this? It's just, there's a whole gamut in this industry that's been quite challenging for us. I think a lot of it is, there's no protection for formulations. So let's say we spend 2 years, whatever amount of time, energy, resources developing a formula. Someone can just buy a sunscreen off the rack and replicate it. And there's no legal protection. And that is precisely one of the biggest issues that I really want to work on beyond just Friday feeling, is that's why we don't have innovation coming out of India. We like to, as consumers, we love to complain, and I'm one of those too. Where I'm like, oh my God, why do we get such good sunscreen from Korea, or like good skincare from Japan, or here and here and here? Because there's no protection. Till you protect innovation, it takes either someone with huge pockets to invest in innovation and come up with a new product. A lot of the smaller guys won't be able to sustain themselves and will struggle because we are never going to be a mass brand, because we are never going to do buy 2, get 3. That's just not how we want to develop this brand.
Divya, I have a question and I'm very curious. Tell me, how do you, Indian market today is cluttered with so many products. Every now and then we see a skincare brand coming up, a makeup brand coming up. How do I, as a consumer, get smarter to understand which brand to pick? And what are the things that I should be careful of, right? Because even if I check the ingredient list, maybe it's not very transparent. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And there are all sorts of products selling in the market. Then how can I pick something that's good for me? For example, I know that France has very, very, very good skincare, and at the same time, they're very, very strict about the laws in terms of what anybody could put in the products there, right? Similarly, Australia, they also have a very high level of certification, from what I know. And I'm not a journalist. I wouldn't know all the facts correctly, but from my own research is what I know. So how does one make up their mind to know which products to pick, and how do you differentiate?
I think the industry is definitely, like you said, grown really fast. There's so many players. And that's one of the challenges as a consumer and as someone who's in the industry, because there's a lot of lot of lack of nuance in this industry. And I see it globally too. It's like suddenly clean skincare is what you need to buy. And then 3 years later, we're like, what even is clean skincare, right? So I think a lot of the conversation needs to bring back nuance and science. I'm a big proponent of believing where the science is and where the science is heading. Whenever something is being marketed to you as, oh my God, I'll fix it in 2 days. Anything that sounds too good to be true is definitely too good to be true. There is nothing our skin there's no product that can change your skin in less than maybe at least, say, 6 to 8 weeks. Nothing happens in less time than that. Unless we come up with a miracle cure for something tomorrow. But as science stands now, if someone's promising you a brand or a product is promising you results faster than that, there's something wrong. So it's just about firstly getting smart about not over-consuming as well. I feel there's so many products, each of us, me included, buy that we don't need. I feel we're kind of already living in an era of fast beauty. We've seen fast fashion. We're living in fast beauty now, where you don't need a spray-on sunscreen. 90% of the times it doesn't work. It gives you a false sense of feeling safe in the sun, which is actually bad because you might end up spending more time in the sun or not wearing a hat because you thought you've put the spray on. So it's just a lot of product segments are more marketing or more just gimmicks than what you truly need. Then when you talk about how to know what to trust and what not to trust, I feel as a consumer, sadly, there is not much you can tell. You brought up the France thing. Volkswagen was being tested in Europe for safety, and they were buying their safety standards off of the government. So there's no way to know, okay, they have amazing laws, but we're all human at the end of the day. Corruption exists everywhere. And it's I think it's a very Indian way of, we still have that image of like, we still have more faith in the Western sense of government or legislation than we do our own. I genuinely feel the more I live, the more I experience different things, and I realize human beings are the same. We all, businesses everywhere want to cheat their way out of rules, regulations, whatever it is that's making it harder to get a profit. So I wouldn't trust any brand blindly. Again, it's all about just being able to then understand how a brand talks to you, how do they market? Because if they're marketing unethically, they're definitely creating products unethically.
What is unethical marketing?
It's just anything that, like, for instance, is promising you results that is impossible, or showing you those before and afters that you know are completely edited. So we've seen so many brands do it globally as well, where the before picture is different lighting, maybe makeup put on the skin in a way that makes it look like worse. And the after is edited or, lit up in a certain way that makes you believe that it's a more drastic result than it truly is. So I think just being able to question things and not take everything at face value, that's just the world we live in. We live in the AI time now. Anything can be faked.
What are your views on the jelly tint everybody's making now?
I think it's just, like I said, there's lack of innovation in the Indian market because the industry, the way the legal setup is, there's no protection to innovate. So a lot of dupe culture is so big in India right now. Firstly, it's easier to dupe something and get away with it because a lot of international brands might not have entered the Indian market. So they're not even aware that these dupes are being made and sold. Then on top of that, a lot of makeup, very interestingly in India, is, I'd say close to 98% of makeup products in India are made by one manufacturer.
Is it the same thing with skincare as well?
I think skincare is still a little more diversified, so far at least. You see at least 7, 8 big manufacturers, and then there's some smaller ones as well. Whereas makeup, especially the lip products that we are using, other than maybe one brand, every brand is getting it manufactured from the same place.
There must be some way to figure this out, because if
It's not really a bad thing, though.
Yeah.
Maybe the manufacturer is differentiating and making different products for each of them. There's no way of knowing. That's the thing. It's just recognizing that, let's say, for instance, Kerastase and L'Oreal, like they share the same R&D, they share almost the same manufacturing. Do I want to spend more for a Kerastase, or am I just happy with the L'Oreal? So it's about just recognizing, as a consumer, just maybe getting more aware, asking those questions before you add something to your basket.
A while back, everybody hated chemicals and stuff everywhere in skincare, makeup. And now it's like, okay, now embracing chemicals is a new thing. Everybody's talking about tretinoin and other actives, and they want to experiment with it because they've realized that it works better, because now there's an entire culture that's selling them this. But so sometimes it's so difficult to decipher what actually works or not.
I feel there's literally, if depending on what, so that's what I give advice to all my friends when they ask me, what should I do? What should my skincare routine be? It's very simple. You have to identify one, maximum two problems you're trying to deal with in your skin. Is it aging? Is it pigmentation? What is it? Recognize one or two, because you can't target more than two at a time. And then just recognizing there's literally just two proven products that work for aging. That has been scientifically proven over decades of research. So there's no doubting it unless you doubt science altogether. Sunscreen and a form of retinol. That's it.
That's it. That's all you need to have.
I mean, that's all that truly has been proven to work. I'm not saying tomorrow we won't have better ingredients, more suited to targeting aging in different ways. But everything else is just nice to have, right?
True.
Those are the essentials. And it's good to have, nice to have. If you can afford it, if you have the time to use all of those products, why not? Go ahead. But just know those are nice to have.
And these are the things that actually work.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the branding. On the package that you sent me, there's a sticker which said, "Hot boys wear SPF." And I love that.
Yeah.
We're advocating for boys wearing SPF, and it's so, and I think it's the same thing with the entire brand imagery. It's so wonderfully done. How did you come up with this idea? And how is it still in development, or what's happening there?
I think the idea was very much like, firstly, not having, we were going through this whole clean beauty wave during COVID, right? And that's when the brand idea, the conception, everything was happening. So the idea was firstly recognizing that science does know best. But at the same time, science doesn't have to be boring, because we had science knows best kind of brands like Ordinary, and all of those were gaining traction during that time. But they looked like some boring old man made it in a lab. That was the vibe. So we wanted to create something that's science, because for me at least, growing up, science was really fun. So I wanted to bring the joy back into skincare and to science. So that was the idea, and I love alliterations. So it had to be an alliteration. I love how it sounds on your tongue, Friday feeling. Other than that, we very consciously wanted to make sure we're not going to target men and women separately. If you're going to be a gender-neutral brand, you don't have to say it. Because if you're saying it, you've already denied the aspect that there is gender neutrality.
Correct.
So the idea was never to call ourselves a unisex brand or a gender-neutral brand, because skin is skin. And especially for sunscreen, like skin is skin. And then obviously we wanted to make sunscreen more of a habit for men. To create that, we wanted to have more equation. So it wasn't just hot girls wear SPF, it's hot boys wear SPF as well. Everyone needs to wear SPF, and that was the idea behind it.
Have you ever been on a dating app?
Dating app? Yeah, obviously. My campus is where Tinder had their beta testing, because he went to my school, the founder. And so we used to...
School did you go to?
I went to USC in Los Angeles. And we had beta testing of Tinder, where we would try and put up pets profiles up and try and see if the system will recognize or not. I like college onwards, I have grown up in an environment where it's been primarily dating apps, but I've never really used them to end up meeting someone worth remembering.
Really? Have you ever met? Have you always met somebody offline?
Pretty much. I've maybe gone on like 2 dates based on the dating apps in my life.
And how were they?
One was very good, and one was extremely memorable in not the best way.
And how do you feel about? Do you feel safe being on a dating app? Is that a deterrent whenever?
I think it's safe enough. Like, I don't think it is anymore, but I don't think it has anything to do with the dating app. It's more the environment we're living in, where men are leaning more towards the right in general. That's just something the genders are going through. We're both on our own separate journeys. And I think the male side is not having an easy time at all. They're struggling. And as they're taught growing up and how we understand men think, they like to blame it on someone else. It's like, it's not my fault. Someone else needs to fix this. Whereas a lot of times when women face challenges, we look inward, right? It's like, how can I do things differently? How can I approach this differently? And I think it's interesting. I love the fact that I'm old enough. I have one friend who's married. Everyone else is single, not even in a relationship, and in different parts of the world. So it's not Indian men that's the problem. That's for sure.
Everybody around me is getting married though.
So I think, again, I think it's a millennial thing. A lot of us are either not getting married or get married much later. I think Gen Z is doing it earlier now again. We're kind of going back to a different time period where a lot of people are doing it earlier or settling down or committing earlier in life. So I think, I find it fairly easy to ask someone out.
And how do they take it? Because generally, I feel that men get very put off with some men really appreciate it, but some men also take it very well.
That's the tactic, right? If someone appreciates it, they're worth going out with.
Correct.
Instantly rejected. As soon as someone's flustered when you ask them out, they're not for you. So that's a good way to filter out men. So I don't know. I find it easy because honestly, very recently, I went down and had a thought and I was like, all the people I've dated, nobody I would have swiped right on an app.
Really? Why? What made
I think there's so much more to finding someone attractive than just a photo or 4 sentences can tell you. So I feel there's this genuine chemistry you can only test in person. And that's pretty much it. I feel like you get a better sense of who someone is when you're standing right in front of them. You can't hide.
Yeah.
Your body language, everything's right there.
True. And it makes such a difference. I am also an advocate of being friends first and then taking it slowly and then eventually ending up dating. I think that's more my style.
Is that how you met your boyfriend?
Yes.
Friends first.
Because I feel that if I would have met him any other way, similar to your experience, I wouldn't have swiped right on him on a dating app. Or I think would have been the case with him as well. Or I think with anybody, because when you're on a dating app, it's so external. You don't get to understand how a person is thinking, reacting, and just that discovery of a person is a journey in itself. And I really appreciate that because that's how you can also find genuine connections. But having said that, there are a lot of people getting married on dating apps also. So I think whatever works.
Exactly. But I feel I really like this new resurgence of people going out, like young people wanting to go out, socialize in person, because I feel that's something Gen Z had a really hard time with. And not blaming them, like you grow up in social media, you go through COVID during the most instrumental years of your life. You never get to socialize in a college environment or a high school environment. I feel it's really important for all of us to go out, have fun, meet new people, put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. I feel a lot of us have we tend to err towards safety. Oh, this is my group of friends. I'm good going out with them. So I feel every once in a while, it's good to push yourself, like fully push yourself out of your comfort zone.
True. And I think that's the reason we've now seen a lot of experiences coming in as well, right? Like right after COVID, you spoke about the concerts, but now I see a lot of my friends, and even I go to a lot of these comedy shows, or would want to sit in, I don't know,
it's like
say
people
a
are doing
class.
pottery, exactly. People are doing run clubs. It's like there's something for everyone now. So you not into running, there's pottery, there's wine and art. There's so many different ways to go out and like socialize and just put yourself in situations where you meet interesting
And pickleball now. I never grew up with sport around me, and I felt like it was missing. The only reason why I was a part of the basketball team in my school is because I was tall. And we were in an all-girls school. We were not taught any sports, and it wasn't a thing at all. Although I think with all other aspects, the school was lovely, but I really regret not playing sport.
Yeah.
So in my adult life, this year was like, especially after I stopped working full time, I was like, now is when I'm going to go out, play sport, take something up, whatever it is. So that's how I started doing yoga, and also started just to learn how to play pickleball, because I literally had no sense of and no hand-eye coordination. And you have to build these things, and it's such an exciting thing. So I feel like such a child whenever I'm on the court learning these things. How's your relationship with sport been?
Just going off of what you said, I feel like it's such a good feeling to be a beginner at something. It's scary, but it's so exciting. It kind of brings out, like you said, the child in you. You're kind of curious again. For me, sport was always everywhere. Like I told you, my brother's an athlete. He's a professional athlete. We all played, like playing outdoors was a given. So football, cricket, I didn't do much competitively because our school gave us access to too many sports in a competitive manner. But I love being outdoors, playing. And then I did do a little bit of rifle shooting. I enjoyed it.
Wow.
And that's something I was good at. I competed a little bit. But I feel, for instance, 2 years back, I started learning tennis. I love to put myself out of my comfort zone, like we were talking. And sport is such a nice way to do it because you're getting fit. It's not something that's harming your body in any which way. You're learning a new skill set. It's good for your brain and for your body. So I try to keep learning. I try to set a target every 2 years. One new thing physically, one new thing mentally, and one new thing as like a fun, relaxing kind of vibe. So tennis was it a few years back, and then I've been learning Italian for the past 6 months now. So every once in a while, I need to refresh and do something new. It's also maybe primarily because I have ADHD, and I'm always looking for the next hit. Like I call it, every few months, life gets too boring, routine gets too much, and either I could crash out aggressively, or I just find a new fix to add into my routine and rotate it out. So if it's going to be 6 months of Italian, maybe that's it. And then I need to take something else and go back to that in a few months.
Let's talk about your newest experience. You're going to Barcelona.
Oh, yes. This is fairly new news for me as well. I wasn't planning on it. Again, the idea did seep in. Oh, you've already started a business. This is something you want to continue doing. Why would you go study further? But the idea was also, why not?
And after being an investment banker and after being a brand owner,
I've now recognized it was pretty much my ADHD dictating all of it, but it all added up beautifully, I feel, because I think being a generalist in general in life, like the career you build, the kind of places I've lived in, it gives you so much context to look at. When you look at any sort of thing you're dealing with in life, you have more context and you can put it in perspective better. So I went to college, studied finance. I lived in LA. Then I lived in New York for a year. hated it. Loved it and hated it at the same time. I think I hated the banking bit because it's again just boring old men in gray and black suits. Like that was just too boring for me. I realized I like the aspect of being ambitious and earning money and like being in that fast-paced environment, but I didn't like that aspect of it. So fairly quickly realized, moved back. I read Sheryl Sandberg's book during this time, and she talks about how she started her career doing sales at Google. And she vouches for doing sales at least once in your life.
I also read that book.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so that's when like the idea was like, okay, I want to do sales at a tech company because that's exciting now. Because I was lost. I was like, suddenly I have no goal because I had spent about 5-6 years just working towards working in banking. And I moved back to India, worked at Zomato for almost 2 years. Loved it, hated it, learned so much from it. It was my first true exposure to India, as I call it. Because like I said, I grew up in quite a bubble in Ludhiana. Didn't really deal with the very everydays of living in a country on your own. You know, fending for yourself, being responsible for the house, running everything. And then got bored. Realized there was quite a bit of a glass ceiling I couldn't have gone beyond. And realized I wanted to do something on my own. And that's just a year before COVID hit. So I had a year of like doing a few different kinds of jobs. I was working for a supper club for a bit, just odd ends, just trying to find my calling. And then the idea for Friday Feeling came, and that's when I was like, okay, it's now or never. And I'm quite the perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist, as I like to call it. And I would have delayed Friday Feeling for another 2 years, maybe, if it wasn't for my sister.
Okay.
Because I didn't think I was ready. I didn't think things were perfect. And just being able to realize that a lot of times you have to do it to get it towards perfect.
True. Even even with me, with a lot of things this year, last year, I've always been this person that, you know, things have to be a certain way when you're starting it, or a certain quality or whatever. But now is when I'm like, okay, jo hoga dekh lenge, aage बढ़ते हैं. पहले शुरू तो करते हैं एटलीस्ट, बिकॉज जब तक हम शुरू ही नहीं करेंगे तब तक हमें पता कैसे चलेगा कि हाउ आर पीपल रिसीविंग इट.
एंड आई फील ऑल्सो nothing ever is perfect.
True.
People like us like to believe we can control things and we can get things to be a certain way and look a certain way. But life happens, shit happens, and gotta just whip it up, make some lemonade.
Sometimes you have to say fuck it and move on.
That's true. Agreed.
And I think that just changes a lot of things. And do you think it's a part of it's a part of an entrepreneurial mindset to always go on and to keep at things, because in a certain way it could also be very, very discouraging to not have things your way sometimes, right? Like for example, you wake up one morning and suddenly everything is going out. You speak to somebody at the warehouse, something's off there, the marketing is not turning out the way you want to. But how do you deal with situations like these? Because it can get very frustrating as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I feel that's the beauty of it. I cherish that feeling a lot, even though I'm a perfectionist. I've been one. I really enjoy waking up not knowing what the next challenge is going to be. It drives me. Like, that's what's exciting about waking up, and you don't know what fire you're putting out today. For instance, and I think we faced so many challenges early on that it kind of pushed this perfectionist out of me. Early on, when we were developing a sunscreen, one of the ingredients that we use is sunflower extract. And just before our first round of manufacturing was bound to happen, the Ukraine war started. And the company we were sourcing the sunflower extract from is in Ukraine. Supply chain's gone. So we got delayed by almost 10 months. But that's something that we realized was a learning, Because now whenever we develop a formulation, we know the exact ingredients. We identify alternative sources for the supply before we even start thinking of manufacturing or running the manufacturing round. So I think, again, you live, you learn, right? Because especially nowadays, I feel running a business with a supply chain that expands across the globe is harder. We live in constant geopolitical warfare and all sorts of instability. So I think you learn, like as a leader, the one thing I learned during that time is like always have a fallback. Then we had, at first batches of tubes came out and we were promised a certain finish. Specifically, we have this sunscreen called Second Nature, which is in the yellow box and tube.
Yes.
And you couldn't read Friday Feeling on the tube. You could barely, like only someone with the perfect, vision could. And one of the instant reaction was, we need to throw it out. We need to get new tubes. Sat down on it for a day, realized the whole idea of Friday Feeling was to not waste. That's one of our ethos for Friday Feeling. We do not want to waste. There's no way to package a sunscreen not in a plastic tube that works long term. So you have to use plastic, but the least you can do is not throw all this plastic out and get new plastic. So we decided to sell in those tubes, but we were transparent with our customers. We made sure they knew what they're buying. We got the boxes reprinted because that's where we could have legibility because it says the same thing on the tube anyway. And I think most of our customers really appreciated it. The fact that firstly, we were honest. Secondly, we chose not to throw all that plastic out.
So I feel even I would have appreciated it as a customer because I feel like you want to be whatever money that you're spending today, you want that to go out for good. And what you said makes a lot of sense, right? Like that also gives you a sense of purpose of buying as a customer and also producing as a brand, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's lovely.
And there's just so many challenges. The thing is, that's the thing, the whole journey, you need to start enjoying the journey. I think it's easier to enjoy the journey when there's tons of money coming in. We're not there yet. But I think just having the belief in the principles that kind of drove us to start Friday Feeling, we're so convinced and we're so hell-bent on holding strong onto those. That's what drives me.
When are you flying to Barcelona?
I think I'm supposed to sometime in August. That's the plan so far. But I have a lot of things in flux. Usually, when everything happens in my life, it all happens at once. That's always been the pattern.
I think that's our lives. With me also, I feel so many things happen at the same time and you don't know what you're going to be hit by the very next second. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, so I was supposed to fly to Berlin in June to see my best friends because she's moving to the US now from Germany. So we were going to do a best friend trip. One of them lives in London. My other friend is in Berlin. She's from there. And I was going to fly in. And for the first time, I had a long-term Schengen visa on my passport, so I didn't have to worry about getting the visa first. But now I think I have to apply for the student visa. And the application has to go in this month. Otherwise, I would have come back and done it. So I don't know if I'll have my passport in hand to go do that trip first. So I'm hoping they can process it in 3 days.
Oh my God. So you've applied your visa as we're speaking?
I will this coming week. I mean, this week is my application day.
Oh my God. 3 days for
the struggles. I always tell my friends, these two, they don't have to worry about visas. I'm like, you guys have no idea the privilege.
Yeah. I hope you get your visa though.
I will. It's just about getting it on time so I can fly and see my friends. Because then she's in the US and I'm like, there's no way I'm traveling to the US under this new era.
True. How did you decide on the fact that you're going to be doing your MBA?
Very confused, very lost. I think it was more so driven by my mom. She really wanted me to apply to just see. She's like, just see what the options are. Don't go. Like, just get a feeler, right? Because I gave my GMAT during COVID again, during my last era.
How many years of work ex do you have?
Close to 10 now.
Close to 10. So
Yeah.
could I see see it as a mid-career transition?
Also, I think, just like I say, I feel like I've reached a place where I feel like I'm in a bit of a comfort zone. So I see it as a way to push myself out of it. Just new country, new city, new language. More than just the MBA, I think all of that kind of drives my decision as well.
And that's so exciting because if somebody's had 10 years of work experience, they wouldn't just make a decision. A lot of people would still, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, but it's easier to, stay back or do what you're doing because you want a more settled kind of life. And you're just embarking on this experience and new adventure. And it sounds so exciting.
I think another thing that kind of drives me as a person is shocking people. I enjoy it. It's like everything I do in life, I love when I can defy the norm. I don't like, how some people will maybe feel a certain way. Oh my God, I'm this age, I'm not married. Or, oh my God, I'm not going to leave this job to do this. I feel it's changed a lot. A lot of our generation kind of does do things our own way and doesn't kind of wait for the world to tell them how they feel about it. But I've always, even when I was a little kid, I've loved to just, be my own person. And if it means I'm going to defy what the world expects of me, I enjoy it even more.
Even I love that. And I love shocking. True. I relate to you so much. I think we have very different, personalities, but at the same time, we have a very similar core value system.
Exactly.
So, and I really relate to that because I feel that anytime somebody tells me that, oh, you can't do this, or okay, why don't you try something else? If I can't do this, this is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be at it and I'm going to get better at it till the time that I can. And I'm going to come back up. And I think you also have the same mindset when it comes to this.
For career perspective, I remember, again, I think the COVID era was transformational for most of us. I read this book by Scott Galloway, Post-Corona. And he said something very interesting. He said, careers as we know it won't exist in the next 10 to 15 years because irrespective of what you're doing, unless you're a rocket scientist or a doctor or a surgeon, you're going to have to reinvent your career every 4 to 5 years. So what I took away from it is, irrespective of what I choose to do, I have to refresh and renew my view on the world, my skill set, the kind of exposure I have. Because if you don't do that, you're not keeping up. And not just that, you're not adding more value to yourself.
True.
And it's so important to be a student for your entire life. Like you have to have that curiosity and want to kind of push yourself out of the comfort zone. I keep saying it, but I truly believe in it. I feel such amazing things have come out in my life, and I've thrown myself in places or rooms where I felt I wasn't ready to be in.
True.
And that's where the magic kind of happens.
And I think that's the thing which is very different about this generation now, because in our parents' generation, when they used to hit 40, I felt that everybody hit a slump where they're like, okay, now we're old. When you're 30 or 40 or 50, you're not old now. And you see so many, especially women, changing the norms of how things are done. And I think that's so brilliant. And that also keeps me motivated because if you look at it, there's just one life.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing everything that you want to do or living it to your fullest potential, or you just let go of your life a certain way, then I don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. Just start over. One life, like time's ticking.
True.
But at the same time, it's never too late.
Yeah. And I think never settle. Especially for women, we just have to learn how to never settle in terms of what we want, what our aspirations are, what is the, what are the things about possibilities. I grew up in the same school that Priyanka Chopra was also in Bareilly. And I don't know, that gave me a lot of and it's a very kiddish thing, but still it, you have a beaming sense of pride that somebody famous is from your school, and if she can make it to an international platform, do this, do that, then you can also do that. And for people who've grown up in Delhi, it might not be, or say metro cities, it might not be a big thing. But for somebody who's grown up in a tier 3 city or a tier 4 city or a town, they'd understand what that does to your confidence and to your mindset in terms of what is achievable and what is not, right? And that's the reason behind why I wanted to have you on the podcast also, because I thought that your mindset is so different and so many people can just get inspired by the way you think and how articulated and headstrong you are. And just to say that, this is what you need, this is what you want, and you want to do things a certain way. As a brand founder, it could have been such a difficult decision saying that now that I've built so much, and eventually it's going to be a journey, right? I can just do this. Why do I need to take on something else? But the ability to keep on learning, I think today, if that's one thing that I'm going to take away from this podcast or this entire conversation, and I think that's just so lovely about you. And I really, really appreciate
maybe it's
that.
just my ADHD, but that's what it is. I don't care. No, but it's interesting you said you had this whole idea because you had Priyanka Chopra go from your school, and as a girl growing up, you get inspired, right? Like, if she can do it, I can do it. It's interesting because we live in times where at least most good parents in our our parents' generation, they allowed girls to dream and have bigger aspirations. And not just that, they kind of encouraged it. We grew up hearing, you can do anything, you can do this, you can do that, whatever you want. I feel in some ways it's interesting. Men didn't grow up with the other side of it, though.
True.
They weren't told you can cry. You can express your feelings. You can not be good at a sport, and it's okay. And I feel that's a huge disconnect that our generation's kind of having to deal with now, because we realize we're all grown up. And like you said, you would want women to be able to live life on their terms, push out of things. I feel it's not easy because a lot of times, like they say, your partner will kind of dictate how your life ends up being. And it's true for men and women. I'm not saying that women have the short end of the stick in any way, but the idea comes back to a lot of times, I see it happen to, and not my closest friends, luckily, but I see it around me. A lot of female friendships go through a hard time when a woman gets married. A lot of socializing, at least in India still, happens around, the guy's friends or family friends or family. You get so pulled into that. You get pulled away from your friendships even sometimes. And you lose a sense of who you are. I feel women are expected to, I guess. I don't think anybody does it knowingly, but that's what you grow up on. You're kind of expected to make more, you're supposed to make room for this new person in your life and not the other way around. And I feel a lot of times I see women who aren't going for what they want, or I know truly they are capable of more. It's usually a man holding them back.
I agree. And I think the relationship dynamics are so different, and especially when you talk about a marriage. When I think about marriage for myself, this is something that I'm extremely scared of. That I've always, and coming from personal experiences and not, I'm sure some people have happy marriages and that's how things are. But I always feel that women are always on the receiving end of things when it comes to a relationship dynamic, right? Like, you are pacifying your partner's emotions. You're also dealing with their families. You're also dealing with your own kids if you have. And that just makes it so difficult to eventually, which eventually makes you lose the sense of self. Like, I
feel men gain more in marriage.
Correct.
Irrespective of how happy or unhappy the marriage is.
Isn't there a statistic that says that single women live longer?
And married men live longer compared to single men? It's true. It actually is. And it's interesting you talk about marriage, and I've always have these like interesting conversations with anyone new I meet because I don't believe in marriage.
Same.
I never have. And the second question someone asks is, oh, did your parents not have a happy marriage? And I'm like, nope, complete opposite. I saw the healthiest, most equal marriage there can be. And I still don't believe in it because to me, it's the most unromantic thing a relationship or two people can do. Because if you need to get a legal paper to get you to stay with someone, isn't that the end of romance?
It's going to get very controversial, but my take is until and unless marital rape is properly identified as a crime in the Indian Constitution, I wouldn't want to get married. And
makes sense.
And I'm not saying that everybody is the same or how your experiences are going to be, but I'm saying it's about the fundamental right to feel like an equal. I'm nobody's property. I was neither my father's property. I was not, and neither am I going to be my husband's property. So and people, like in your case, everybody talks about how your parents had maybe the marriage didn't work, maybe, and that's the reason you have your own thoughts about not believing in a marriage, right? In my case, my parents separated, they divorced eventually, and then everybody relates it to that. And I think it's also not coming, definitely it's going to be inspired from some experiences, but having said that, that's not it because, and I also feel like I really don't identify myself in an institution where marriage is a believable, equal and equitable concept. And unless we achieve that kind of equity, I don't think I'm in the headspace that I can take bullshit from any other person. And it doesn't matter even if that person's my husband.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend's very nice. He's very, very supportive. And and I think he makes things possible in a lot of different ways. But having said that, I still feel that there is a difference between things, and that's how, and I think that's a larger thing with he.
Yeah. And I feel there's a lack of understanding from a lot of different people, groups of people, men, conservatives, as to why women are rejecting marriage en masse these days, is not because maybe some of them don't believe in it. It's just the fact that they don't see value in it.
Yeah.
It's lost value in so many ways. Like you said, like healed women who've grown up or not even seen it, but recognize how unfair or unequal the institute has always been.
There's an Instagram reel that I watched recently. It reminds me of that this content creator is in a foreign land, and she said that this is what patriarchy was doing to us. They were hiding how liberating it is to travel on your own with your own money and living your own life.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest scam of your life. Never let anybody decide where you can go, cannot go, with whom and without whom, and all of that. And I was like, yes, this is what you live for. This is what you earn money for, for your own freedom. And that's the reason I believe that if women will own more businesses, they will become founders. And we buy from women is when they'll have more money and more decision-making power in the best rooms in the world. Even right now, as we speak, only 11% of the wealth actually lands up with women, right? The rest is still with men. So even when women are doing such wonderful things all across the world, I really believe the only way, doesn't matter whichever room we are in, until and unless we have our own money and we are making more money, is only when we will have more decision-making power and capabilities. So,
No, I agree. I think money does buy you freedom. That's something I've always felt. It's not the only thing that buys you freedom, but I feel it puts you in a better place to make independent choices without having to feel pressured in one way or the other.
True, I agree. So I hope this year and every year is for women and how we feel a little bit more liberated in our own skin. And this is what Girls Who Get It is all about. for women who actually get to live their lives on their own terms and get the grind, get literally everything that happens behind the scene. And you are a woman, or you are the girl who gets it.
Thanks. I'm privileged to be a girl who gets it, because I feel there's a whole group, there's a village behind me that has helped me be this person or be at a place where I can talk openly about these things or be strong, opinionated, and feel confident being opinionated. And I think it's all our job to be that village for someone else. As long as we keep passing this on and we make sure there's at least one woman or one person out there that we can help with our thoughts and ideas, just lift them up a little bit. That's how we make the world a better place.
Yes, truly. I believe so too. Today, somebody were to start their own brand sitting from Ludhiana or sitting from Bareilly. What would you suggest them as a brand owner? How do you conceptualize an idea to execute it?
I think very technically, just what we've recognized, me and my sister now, we're millennials. We want super social media loving, especially putting our face out there. It's like you have to build your brand first. Who are you? What inspires you? What are you passionate about? That will guide you to what your brand should be and what that should look like. If it's truly based on your value systems and your principles, that's the only way you're going to outlast the competition. Because it's not easy. You need a lot of planning, a lot of resources. We are doing it the bootstrap way. It's still not easy. We've chosen not to take outside funding, and that's a choice we'll stick with. Use every opportunity, every network access you have, because you don't know whose door you're going to knock and what's going to come out of it. I feel don't be shy to ask for help. Be shameless about it, because you have to create your own opportunities sometimes. And you can't just sit there and expect to know someone. You don't need to have a rich dad to do it, but anything you've grown, you've had access to any sort of networking opportunities, use that. And I think lastly, I would say how Diljit said it best. They have big dreams because they do come true.
True.
Yeah.
And I would want to add to that. I believe that adding a lot of faith in the world helps. Only recently I've realized that sitting in our rooms, we think that the world will not revert on our idea or what's going to happen to our business tomorrow, or we're not good enough. But you'd be surprised how many people would actually go and believe in you once you put yourself out there. And that's the potential that exists today. The world's overlapping. You can just message somebody on LinkedIn, message somebody on Instagram. I DM'd her. So we can sit here and do this. I believe anybody can do anything, and there are larger possibilities of who we are and who we can be at the end of the day. And that's the thought we want all of you to take you with yourselves, and maybe that helps you today.
Yep. Thank you.
I would also want to give you hampers from our partner brands. One is already from you. You know that. The other one is from Nario. And we've had a wonderful, wonderful coffee from Zenma today. So all of these brands are owned by women, run by women. And I'm so proud of having them as partners. So I'm just going to bring the hampers and give it to you. This is by Nario.
Thank you.
And look at the sticker I was talking about. It says, hot boys wear SPF.
They do. And women rock.
Yes. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, it was so much fun talking to you.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you felt seen, heard, or we did something for you today, which made you feel better, follow us, subscribe to us, and share this episode with the girl who truly gets it.